Hey guys, it's Michelle, the Insulin Empress. I'm at work and it's kind of a slow time, and so I thought I'd come on here and have a little discussion with you guys on sugar and why sugar tends to stay high for people who have both type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Now, these two are two different diseases. They seem like they're the same, but they're not. They're actually two different things. Oh, let me fix this camera so you guys can see all my lumps. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I'm checking my sugar, my ketones, which I do this every day before I finish my fasting session. And checking my ketones kind of helps to see where my insulin is at. And I do both my sugar and my ketones, 2 different meters. Okay. Let me do this real quick, and then I can only do one thing at a time. So my fingers are getting kind of, just really tough skin. Just a little drop of blood. Always wipe away the first one from all the finger pricks that I do. Okay, so with type 1 and type 2 diabetes, the main difference between the two isn't the glucose. It isn't the fact that it's autoimmune, though. That is the thing. So type 2 diabetes is strictly lifestyle, 100% lifestyle. Type 1 diabetes is autoimmune. Let me show you guys my sugar levels. I don't know if you guys can see them. Sugar is 100. My ketones is at 0.4. Okay. So, sorry, this is very crude recording because this is the time that I have. So anyway, type 1 diabetes, no insulin production at all. Type 2 diabetes, massive amounts of insulin production. This is where they are complete opposites. Type 1 diabetes has no insulin. Type 2 has, 10 times too much. So that makes a huge difference. But they both present with high sugars. Why is that? With a type 1 diabetic, to lower the sugars, you give them insulin. So if a type 2 diabetic has a lot of insulin, why is their sugar going up really high? Well, there is a very important mechanism that a lot of people don't understand. Even clinicians, doctors, don't understand this process. What happens when your cells are not getting food, whether it's a lack of insulin or too much insulin? When you have too much, you develop something called insulin resistance. It's the cell itself blocking insulin. And so what's happening is that because the cell is blocking insulin, insulin is what's bringing sugar to the body. So glucose is like a toddler that needs a chaperone. It can't go anywhere by itself. It needs a chaperone, and insulin is that chaperone. The problem is that when your cells are rejecting insulin because insulin can be overbearing, that leaves the cells hungry. They're not getting food because food only comes through insulin. So in both instances, both type 1 and type 2 diabetes, the cells are starving. When the body is starving, when the cells are starving, your body makes something called glucagon. Okay, it's made in the pancreas, same place where insulin is made, and its job is to tell the liver to make sugar, to raise your sugar levels. So you will see in a type 2 diabetic or a type 1 diabetic, it doesn't matter how long they fast, okay, if they don't have insulin, or if they're too insulin resistant, they will have high sugar levels despite not eating, okay? So it's not always the sugar that's coming in that's causing the problem. It's the sugar that's being made in the body that's causing the high sugar levels. So when your cells get fed, so for a type 1 diabetic, when they get a little bit of insulin, not too much, because you can make a type 1 diabetic, you can make them insulin resistant. By giving too much insulin too often, you can make a type 1 diabetic insulin resistant. So giving just enough insulin to cover the food that is necessary and eating lower carbs, so you're not needing to use as much insulin constantly, that will help feed the cells, which will lower the glucagon production in the pancreas. Same thing with the type 2 diabetic. With the type 2 diabetic, if they reverse their insulin resistance, bring their insulin levels lower, then their cells will get fed because there's plenty of insulin to do the job, and the glucagon levels will come down. The sugar levels will naturally come down on their own just from lowering insulin levels. Problem with type 2 diabetes is that the main treatment is more insulin because the focus is to bring the sugar levels down. Well, it's this vicious cycle. It's a catch-22. When the sugar levels go up, you need insulin. When insulin is too elevated, it causes insulin resistance, which then causes the body to make sugar to feed the cells, which it's not working, because people, when they have type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance, they have chronic fatigue, they have lack of energy, they have brain fog, they have so many health conditions where it shows that their body's not getting the nutrition that they need. They're gaining weight, but they're constantly tired and hungry and constantly craving carbs, and it's because of the fact that their body is not, their cells are actually not getting the nutrition. The cells are swimming in all this glucose and fat, all these energy sources, and it's not getting it because of the fact that it has insulin resistance. So when you reverse your insulin resistance, then you can start feeding your cells, and then your glucagon production goes down naturally. Okay, so that's just one of the main points I wanted to bring up, that I see a lot of people don't understand why both type 2 diabetics and type 1 diabetics deal with massively high sugar levels. Now here's the thing, my cat is a type 1 diabetic, and he eats nothing but meat, no carbs at all, and yet his sugar will go to 300. And it's not because the meat turns into sugar. The protein does not turn into sugar. The protein is a building block, but because his glucagon is working overtime. So the glucagon in the pancreas is working overtime, raising the sugar levels in the body, trying to get it to be fed. The one thing that helps with getting glucose down without insulin is exercise. When you exercise, that opens this kind of like a secret door on the back of the cell that allows glucose in without the chaperone, without insulin. But this only happens with exercise. You got to move. That's why after eating, one of the best things you can do is go for a walk, because that physical activity, or go dancing, that physical activity helps to pull that glucose out of the bloodstream into the muscles. Even if they're insulin resistant, even if they are rejecting insulin, they can get the sugar they need to do their processes without the use of insulin. And over time, that causes your insulin levels to get lower and lower. It causes your sugar levels to stay lower and lower, which then causes your insulin levels to stay lower and lower, and then eventually you reverse your insulin resistance. So it's not something that can be done overnight, but it's a hack to bring your sugar levels down and bring your insulin levels down, and to reverse the insulin resistance, and to reverse the glucagon overproducing too much sugar. So it's not, my main point is that it's not always your diet that is causing the high sugar levels in a type 1 or type 2 diabetic. So if you find yourself with high glucose levels, it isn't necessarily because you ate a bunch of carbs. Okay, it's because your body is starving, and so its response is to raise sugar on its own. Your body makes its own sugar very easily, and so it will do it when it feels like it is starving. So if you can fix the problem why it's starving, then those glucose levels will come down. That extra glucagon will come down. This is where supplements like Metformin and Berberine come in, because their main mechanism of action is on the glucagon. So basically, it stops the glucagon release. So when your body is starving, it wants to shoot up glucagon so it can shoot up your sugar. But if your sugar is already too high, that's going to cause problems. So by stopping that glucagon response, you're able to kind of catch up. It kind of gives you a little bit of a breather and gives you a chance to catch up. It's not a medication that allows you to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, and it doesn't allow you to be a reckless person with your lifestyle and your diet. But what it does do is it gives you a breather, helps you to get caught up, especially if you are a diabetic that is trying to go low carb. The one thing that a lot of people don't know is that protein spikes glucagon, because when you eat protein by itself, protein is not a fuel source. It is a building block, period. And so if you're not getting carbs or fats, these are the two fuel sources for your body, is carbs and fats. If you're not getting either of those two, and you're eating a lot of protein, which protein you need for your muscles, to build your muscles, but if you're not getting the other two, your body's going to say, there's no energy coming in, so we must make our own. And so that's when the body gets busy and produces glucagon, which then tells the liver to make sugar. And if your insulin levels are high to begin with, it's going to use your very own muscles from your legs and your butt to make glucose. So that's why a lot of times you'll see people with bigger upper bodies and very skinny legs and almost no butt. Is because their body has been constantly having to use the muscles from the leg and the butt to produce glucose for these people, because their insulin is too high. So when you are trying to go on a low carb diet and eat a lot of protein, and then you're trying to get your sugar levels under control, you'll see that you'll have a hard time getting your sugars down because of the fact that protein spikes glucagon. So if your sugar levels are high to begin with, metformin or berberine. Berberine is a more natural version of metformin, and it has less digestive side effects. Either of those two will help bring your sugar levels down while you're introducing a lot of protein into your diet to kind of get the ball rolling to reverse insulin resistance. So that's why in the beginning it may seem like your sugar levels aren't doing what you want them to do and they're still staying high. It's because of the fact that your body is still starving and it needs that glucagon to stop. So a quicker way to get it done is to take either berberine or metformin while your sugar levels are high to help bring that down while you're changing your lifestyle, changing your diet. I hope this information helps. I hope it makes the picture a little clearer, hopefully, if I did a good job. But if you have any questions that maybe I didn't cover, maybe something I said, sparked a question, let me know in the comments and I will try to get back to you. Thank you so much for watching my videos. I hope that they were helpful and I'll see you in the next one.